listening to the WrestleHavoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc podcast.
What's up? What's up? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here on episode 11 of the WrestleHavoc podcast, giving you guys everything in and outside of the squared circle. I know the big question for all of you guys is, where the hell have I been this past week? I didn't post any video this past week. If you guys saw on Twitter, I've been extremely busy with school right now. Of course, school is at this point top priority because I'm in college right now, so I've been really busy with that. So I really didn't have any time to give you guys any reviews. So on first note, I want to apologize for not uploading any reviews for you guys, but hopefully, especially this week, I can get to all of these reviews. Also, we got WrestleMania season on the horizon. WrestleMania weekend is this coming weekend. It is going to be an absolutely very, very, very busy weekend. We got Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor, which I plan on reviewing. Of course, we got SmackDown, Raw, Dynamite. We also got WrestleMania's Night 1 and Night 2, which are going to be huge shows. Of course, WrestleMania is the biggest show of the year, so I have a lot of plans. I have not built up a schedule for what I'm going to be doing WrestleMania weekend, but hopefully on Tuesday's Raw review, I'll give you guys a schedule so you guys can check out all the content that I have planned for this coming weekend, as it is the biggest weekend in pro wrestling of the year, that being WrestleMania weekend, the Super Bowl of this great business. But we got a lot of things to cover right here on episode 11. And again, my apologies. I also did not upload episode 11 last week as well, so that is my fault as well. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, as you guys can see, I have a new layout right here. I kind of fixed things a lot with the channel. I've been making new layouts as well. I've been really busy with a lot of stuff. But we got a lot of things to cover right here on the show. Of course, the big story that we are going to be talking about, and that is actually the first major thing that we are going to be talking about. Really, it's the only major thing. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, it's the only major thing. It is the one and only CM Punk, the best in the world, the voice of the voiceless. A lot of shit came out, especially on Punk's side, with a deleted Instagram story that lasted, I believe, seconds. And Punk blasted the company. He blasted AEW for apparently wrestling while he was still not cleared in that short squash match with Jon Moxley 2 weeks before All Out. He calls Chris Jericho and Dave Meltzer liars. A lot of crazy shit happened that Punk stated. And the biggest question coming out of this is, does this jeopardize a CM Punk return to AEW? I'm going to be talking about that because it is a huge story. I'm going to be giving you guys also my thoughts on El Hijo del Vikingos. Yes, El Hijo de Vikingo. He had his amazing match on Dynamite with Kenny Omega, the best bout machine in the main event of Dynamite this past Wednesday. I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts on that. We got an update on the third show for AEW that is rumored to be airing, or beginning, I should say, in July. We got news on that. We are going to be talking about FTR as well and their status, if they are going to be staying or leaving AEW. We also got a couple of matches officially announced for WrestleMania. I'm not going to be giving you guys my WrestleMania predictions on this show. Hopefully that will be saved till Thursday. My plan is I'm not sure because I haven't scheduled everything yet, but hopefully I get to upload episode 12 of the podcast earlier because of the fact that we got a lot of shit going on this weekend. Of course, WrestleMania is 2 nights, and I have to be on top of that more than anything because WrestleMania is the biggest show of the year. So I will be giving you guys my predictions for WrestleMania on the next episode of the WrestleHavoc podcast. But we also have 2 matches officially announced for WrestleMania, that being John Cena versus Austin Theory and Dominik Mysterio versus his own father, Rey Mysterio. That is officially announced for WrestleMania. We're also going to be talking about Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door 2 has been announced, and it's going to be taking place June 25th in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And it looks like the show is almost sold out, which you love to see, in my opinion. Fantastic stuff. But we got a lot of things to talk about on the show. We are also going to be running down the Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor show. Now, keep in mind, I actually haven't watched the last 2 episodes of Ring of Honor, so I'm quite behind. I actually did not watch SmackDown as well. So, again, I'm quite behind with all that stuff as well. But the card for Supercard of Honor looks absolutely fucking stacked, especially with the match between El Hijo del Vikingo versus Commander. I'm so fucking excited for that match. I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts on that as well. And a bunch more right here on episode 11 of the WrestleHavoc podcast, right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And, as the frickin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc podcast is also available on audio platforms. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to listen to the WrestleHavoc podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. All right, let's get down with the nitty-gritty, the biggest story of this whole week. And that is, of course, Phil Brooks himself, CM Punk. You know, dating back, John Morrison, when he was ECW champion back in 2007, he cut this promo. And he always said, what does CM Punk's name stand for? What does CM stand for? Cookie Monster? I have no idea. Anyway, let's go back to CM Punk. CM Punk is in the news once again, but not for the reasons that you think. Now, I'm reading this from F4W Online. This is the first portion of what I'm going to read for you guys. I'm reading this from F4W Online, but also the next portion of the whole thing, I'm going to be reading you guys from Fightful Select. But CM Punk goes to Instagram, and he posts and deletes a Instagram story basically blasting AEW, supposed heat with Jon Moxley. A lot of crazy shit has gone down. So once again, I'm reading this from F4W Online. In a now deleted Instagram post, former 2-time AEW World Champion CM Punk gave his perspective on the build to his Jon Moxley match, which included claiming Moxley did not want to lose to him. He also accused AEW of asking him to wrestle without being medically cleared, in addition to calling both Chris Jericho and Dave Meltzer liars. This came from comments appear to stem from a comment Dave Meltzer made on the message board, on their own message board from the Wrestling Observer, that was shared on social media earlier on Thursday. Meltzer was replying to a comment and wrote the following, and I quote, "Do you know why they didn't advertise Punk versus Moxley longer and why it had a short build? It's because Punk agreed to it, and then AEW got a legal letter saying he wasn't down with it and wasn't doing it, and they didn't know if he'd come until Tony put his foot down. There are a lot of nice things I can say about him, and you can absolutely agree his position on Moxley was correct, but you can't argue he willingly did what he was asked in that scenario." End quote. Meltzer was referring to the build for Punk versus Moxley at 2022's All Out, which saw Moxley defeat CM Punk in 3 minutes on the August 24th episode of Dynamite. The fact that the Dynamite match happened was a surprise to many fans, as they assumed for the first time they would see Punk wrestle following his summer foot surgery would be at All Out, which shocked me as well. I was actually very disappointed in how that came out, and if you really look back at the way they built the All Out match between Punk and Moxley, it kind of really made no sense considering what would happen in the future, which you guys all know what the fuck happened. But later on, let's continue on. Punk did defeat Moxley at the rematch at All Out to regain the AEW World title, which was eventually stripped due to him sustaining a triceps tear during the match, which preceded his now infamous post-event media comments and subsequent fight with the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Ace Steel. In a now deleted Instagram post, Punk said he insisted he needed to be cleared from his foot surgery before he could have returned, assumed to be for the first Moxley match, but they quote-unquote, they kept saying it could just be a squash, so I didn't need to be cleared, which he didn't agree with. Punk seemed to credit the match and build to All Out to Moxley's Rocky III idea that he thought quote-unquote sucked. He went along with it and also claimed that Moxley wouldn't lose to him a first in his career. So I'm going to be reading you guys what CM Punk stated in this now deleted Instagram story, which lasted like seconds, but fans ended up catching this and actually ended up snapshotting this, and we all know what the hell is going on now. And this became major news all around. So right here, as you can see, right here is the deleted Instagram story that CM Punk posted that lasted seconds. And I'm going to be reading you guys what it clearly says. And I quote, "Sigh, I wasn't cleared to come back to wrestle yet. The plan was to wrestle at the pay-per-view. I sat and listened to Moxley's Rocky III idea. I explained how I'd never seen a Rocky movie and thought the idea sucked, but if the boss wanted to do it, then whatever. He said he wouldn't lose to me. I'd never experienced someone refusing to lose to me. I just laughed. I asked Tony if this is what he wanted. He said yes. He's the boss, so I said okay, but I need to be cleared first. They kept saying it could just be a squash, so I didn't need to be cleared. I scoffed at that. My health is more important. Dave Meltzer is a liar. Chris Jericho is a liar and a stooge. There were plans, but plans always change. But I'll never put a company above my health ever again." That was the Instagram story that CM Punk posted. And this caused a lot of talking within the wrestling community all over the internet, and rightfully so. Because the main thing to take away from this is Punk is basically, I don't want to say accusing, but basically stating that AEW wanted him to wrestle while he still wasn't cleared. Now, that is a major fucking accusation, if you could say, towards AEW. And if that is true, that is not a good look in my opinion. But we have more. As of now, AEW has yet to comment publicly about the accusations. Then Jericho shared the following on Instagram shortly after, showing broken, or I should say woken, Matt Hardy in the WWE doing his whole delete shtick, which is absolutely hilarious to think. So Chris Jericho knows what the fuck is going on. And I'm continuing reading this from F4W Online. Punk's status with the company is unknown as he recovers from surgery on the aforementioned triceps tear. At one point months ago, Meltzer had reported Punk and AEW were working on a buyout. Of course, that was the buyout of its contract. Punk then recently appeared in the crowd as a spectator at New Japan Pro Wrestling's Battle in the Valley pay-per-view and resumed his duties as a color commentator for a regional MMA organization. I believe it's Fury Fighting Championship. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he does commentary there. But yeah, man, Punk, you know, one thing that I can take away from this is the more things change, the more they stay the same. And right when a time when AEW is actually doing so much better than they were a couple of months prior, and as someone who I flat out said in many Dynamite reviews this year alone, I genuinely believe that AEW has definitely recovered from the CM Punk drama that went down. They definitely focused a lot on things besides CM Punk, in my opinion. But this whole CM Punk story is still an ongoing story. But the fact that this shit is coming out now goes to show you that I genuinely believe Punk is still in the same stance as he was back in September when he went in that rant at the media scrum. Now I'm going to be reading this from Fightful Select. We got a quick update, and there was a lot of talks, updates about the rumored heat that CM Punk had apparently with Jon Moxley. We have an injury update, him appearing at the New Japan show, and the whole brawl-out situation. So I'm reading this once again from Fightful Select. In the post, CM Punk confirmed a Fightful Select report from last fall that Jon Moxley pitched the idea of CM Punk losing in a quick match before their all-out match. Those familiar with the situation say that Punk had communicated that he wasn't comfortable competing in any capacity without being cleared first for the August 24th match. There had been issues regarding the creative throughout the build to the match, and Fightful had reported that there were concerns that Punk wouldn't be at the August 17th Dynamite as well. However, we're told that special travel arrangements were made to accommodate Punk the day of the match, and Punk had at least floated the idea of an additional reimbursement for the match as he was working without being cleared per his claims. We've heard subsequently Jon Moxley and Punk have appeared to have heat. And based on those that Moxley has spoken to after Brawl Out, it's funny how they named it Brawl Out, funny as hell. Moxley helped lead a locker room meeting in the days after with Chris Jericho, who was called a quote-unquote liar and a stooge in the Punk Instagram post. Bryan Danielson also led the meeting, but wasn't mentioned, and we haven't heard any heat between Danielson and Punk. Jericho and Punk shouted at each other after the Brawl Out fight took place, with Jericho calling Punk quote-unquote a cancer, and Punk shouting back at Jericho. Those in AEW believe that if things came down to quote-unquote Moxley or Punk in the situation, that AEW would pick Moxley in that decision. Punk is very aware of the heat on him and the possibility of the talent walking out should he return, but we haven't heard his feelings on it. Some of the heat has certainly died down since All Out 2022, but there's still plenty that still remains. So yeah, that was the one portion of the Fightful Select. That's like only 1/3. But what are my thoughts on this overall? First off, I believe this whole situation with Punk, you guys know me. I think the whole situation that is stemming with the Elite, CM Punk, all of the bullshit that led at the media scrum was 100%, and I mean this wholeheartedly, 100% completely fucking unnecessary. This whole drama that stemmed with CM Punk and all the other people with the Elite, all this bullshit did not need to happen. Keep in mind, let's fast forward back to when all this initially happened, because this initially happened when apparently Punk was upset because of the fact that, quote-unquote, Hangman went into business for himself, and he thought what he stated in that promo on the go-home episode of Dynamite before their Double or Nothing match, he basically thought he mentioned Colt Cabana, all that type of shit. Again, you as the fan watching that particular promo, let's be honest with yourselves. Let's be honest with ourselves. Did you think of Colt Cabana when Hangman stated everything he said on CM Punk in that promo? Nothing. I didn't think. I actually thought I was more intrigued to watch that match. But then you fast forward what happened, all the bullshit that happened. He foolishly got injured, all that type of stuff. Again, CM Punk handled this situation badly. And I don't want to just take the Elite side, because at the end of the day, everybody is in the wrong in this situation. And at the end of the day as well, Tony Khan should have fixed this whole situation when he had the chance to, but he let it slide and things escalated, and you know what the fuck happened. Now, this whole Instagram post is very, very interesting to me, because a lot of the things that CM Punk stated in that Instagram story sounds like he does not want to return to AEW. I don't know about you guys, but it sounds like he's still... I feel like he's still... this is just my speculation. I feel like he still he has regret for what he did. But at the same time, I feel like he still feels what he felt about the whole situation. And I think that's a bad thing. I think the fact that Punk is letting... these are very serious accusations that Punk stated in that Instagram story. Talking about, they wanted to have me wrestle while I wasn't cleared. Again, that is a very serious accusation. That's clearly a lawsuit waiting to fucking happen, in my opinion. If that is true, then AEW is clearly in the wrong, and CM Punk has every reason to be upset. But at the same time, if you really think about it, Punk was the one that went forward with the idea. Not going forward with the idea, but he was the one that accepted it and actually went forward with it anyway. So why is Punk complaining anyway? He could have easily declined that and be like, no, this is bullshit. I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do this. But Punk didn't do that. So he still went forward with the match. And at the end of the day, the whole build to Moxley versus Punk at All Out was completely useless. I thought the way that they handled the build for that match was so stupid. I didn't like what they did on Dynamite. The fact that they had to book that match on Dynamite 2 weeks before the pay-per-view in Cleveland. Now, granted, if you look at it from a story perspective, it made total sense because of the fact that Punk has a not-so-good history in Cleveland because it was the city that he walked out on WWE on, but also it was where he lost that UFC fight. But again, if you look at it from a business perspective, that whole match that happened on Dynamite 2 weeks before the pay-per-view, if you think about it, felt very, in my opinion, very lazy and very rushed. Now, again, those are very serious accusations that Punk is making. But having heat with Moxley, I don't know about you guys, but Punk having heat with Moxley is very weird, and Moxley not wanting to lose to CM Punk is very weird to me as well, because Punk was stating, I never had that happen to me in my career about somebody telling me that they didn't want to lose to me. It's very weird because at the end of the day, Punk looked stronger in the end when he beat Jon Moxley in that match that they had at All Out. So the fact that Punk is kind of making all this, I don't want to say making stuff up, because I think we do not, everybody has their own perspective on things, but the fact that he called Chris Jericho a stooge and a liar and Dave Meltzer, a liar, is very interesting to me. Now, the whole situation that stemmed with CM Punk basically stemmed on the Elite apparently spreading false information to Dave Meltzer and everybody else. And it's funny to me because I genuinely do not believe that the Young Bucks gave information to Dave Meltzer to report. That's what basically led us to this whole situation. Somebody in the AEW locker room is giving this information out. I genuinely do not believe it's the Young Bucks. Heck, I'll go as far as to say I do not believe it's Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is not that fucking stupid, okay? He will, literally, the guy is so loyal to AEW. Why the fuck would he do that to hurt Punk's reputation? But I do believe that somebody is spreading this false information. But the funny thing about this is why it's just so weird to me how things have to escalate like this. And, all these accusations that are happening, it's very much hindering a possible return to AEW. And that's what I really want to take away from this. This whole Instagram story that CM Punk posted definitely hurt his chances of a potential AEW return, in my opinion. And that is not a good thing. CM Punk is not the type of individual that loves reconciliation. I personally want CM Punk to come back. Now, hear me out. I want everybody to work together at the end of the day. But after this, I do not know if Punk is even going to be coming back, because we're literally in the same position that we were back in September. And I feel like Punk is standing his ground. And I think it's a very fucked up situation. This whole shit is just very dumb. And again, what's funny about this whole thing is Bryan Alvarez went on Wrestling Observer Live and he stated something very interesting. And he stated, the Bucks did not give this information away. The Bucks did not give this information away. And the first time I heard, and this is what Bryan Alvarez stated, the first time that I heard about this Colt Cabana CM Punk doc in AEW was not even from anybody in AEW. I heard this from fans. And then he later talked about how, nobody can make money off of CM Punk and FTR versus the Elite, blah, blah, blah. I have to disagree with Bryan Alvarez on that statement. I think you can make bank on a CM Punk return, in my opinion. But again, after this Instagram story, I do not know if that is even going to be the case. Because, again, he made this. Keep in mind, this whole Instagram story is basically CM Punk in the media scrum, just not physically speaking. He's just literally posting something out of his mind. And the fact that this is happening now at a time where AEW is actually getting much better morale-wise, and, their product is starting to pick up some more steam, especially what happened this past Wednesday, it's a very bad look on the company. And yes, CM Punk coming back to AEW is going to drive big business, because I don't care what any fucking people say. I don't care what any fucking people say. Anybody says CM Punk is the biggest star in AEW, period. He is their biggest draw. Now, AEW can literally survive without CM Punk. They can survive without CM Punk. But again, he can make AEW programming so much better. Now, granted, it's fucking fantastic what they're doing now. But again, this, Punk's AEW run was not bad. It was not bad at all. I loved the feuds that CM Punk was in. But again, it's just, I don't know, man. And the biggest thing to take away from this is if he even returns to the company, which after this, honestly, I do not know if that's going to be the case. what is the locker room going to say about this? You know, you have to really think about the morale in the locker room. And there was a lot of bullshit that happened in the locker room. I genuinely believe that there is a divide between people that do not like CM Punk and people that do like CM Punk. It's a very weird situation, but if CM Punk does come back, which I think after this, I don't think he will, but crazier things have happened, he's gonna have to issue the utmost honest, sincere, legitimate apology that I've ever heard somebody say. Because, again, CM Punk, even though you have the right to defend yourself, the way that CM Punk managed to handle himself in this whole situation, he immediately ended up being in the wrong. Even though it was everybody's fault. It was the Elites, Tony Khan's, CM Punk's. It was everybody's fault. A lot of the blame is going to be pointed at Punk, and rightfully so, considering the fact that he blasted the company in a public manner that he shouldn't have done. He made the company look bad right next to his boss, Tony Khan. Literally, the Elite gave CM Punk a platform for him to return to wrestling in 7 fucking years, and CM Punk blew it himself. And after this, honestly, I don't know if he's even going to be coming back at this point, because I was one of those people that genuinely wanted CM Punk back. I really did. But again, after this just looks very bad. Now, continuing with the Fightful Select report, we got a couple of updates on Punk and AEW. AEW and CM Punk have had some contact. In fact, some close to Punk claim that he and Tony Khan have quote-unquote spoken or had a couple of meetings, though we aren't sure what, if anything, came of them. We do know that there was a planned meeting for mid-February that was delayed, supposedly due to Jerry Jarrett's funeral. At one point, those close to Punk believed that he wanted out of his contract without a non-compete attached. Now, that's very interesting. Now, because when the rumors of the buyout were happening, there was rumors that Tony Khan wanted a non-compete clause on the buyout, but CM Punk did not want a non-compete. So that was very interesting. However, in recent weeks, they believed that Punk was open to returning to AEW and even wanted to. An important note, at least one person claimed that Punk was willing to apologize for the scrum portion of the All Out evening, and there was a lot of context absent from that claim. Specifically to whom or whether I'd be publicly or privately, several people said that Punk has expressed some form of regret for aspect of the night in general. Sources said that Punk was originally considering the potential of legal action, but we haven't heard anything about the being broached in months. In fact, those that we spoke to felt like there had been quote-unquote productive progression in the opposite direction. However, sources within AEW that we spoke to lost confidence that Punk would be returning after the March 23rd post. There you go. Punk does remain under contract with AEW. We've inquired to whether or not that there was any suspension or paid docking involved, but traditionally, AEW has paid out wrestlers while they're injured regardless. Punk has not responded to email inquiries about this story. I don't know, man. And they go on to continuing to talk about the injury update. As far as his status, he tore his triceps, of course, and they were hopeful that he could be fully healed by late January, but they believe now he is now able to be cleared. But if not now, very soon. And then we got the brawl out situation. Apparently somebody else was involved. A lot of crazy shit. I'm not going to read you guys the whole thing, but that was basically the important stuff that I just read to you guys. Does CM Punk come back? I have no idea. At this point, this whole situation, apparently it's not with the Elite anymore. It's apparently, now with Jericho that he has heat with John Moxley. We do not know what the fuck is going on. At this point, this whole fucking situation is a he said, she said situation. And the only people that knew what happened that night after the press conference in that backstage fight are CM Punk, Ace Steel, and the Elite. That is it. Nobody else. And we'll probably never know. But, again, does CM Punk come back? I don't know, man. I'm being honest. I really, 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 really do not know. It's I don't want to say it's a do or die situation, but it's definitely a challenging decision that Tony Khan is unfortunately going to have to make. Does CM Punk leave AEW or does he bring him back? I still want him to be coming back. I still want CM Punk to come back to AEW and work with the Elite and FTR, all that shit. I want this shit to be turned into a work. But again, I mean, is CM Punk literally after this Instagram post basically accusing the company? Does that happen? Honestly, at this point, I don't think so. But a lot of crazier things have happened. We're just going to have to wait and see what the fuck happens in the future, man. This whole situation is ridiculous. It's stupid. It could have easily been avoided. And it was the stupidest shit ever because this whole situation stemmed from Colt fucking Cabana. And Colt Cabana, whether you like the guy or not, he's not really an important individual that is utilized on AEW television. He's not even an integral part of the fucking show. So why are we talking about Colt Cabana? This is ridiculous. I don't know if CM Punk is going to be coming back. I hope he does, but if he does, he's going to have to issue an apology because the majority of this whole situation, even though I blame this whole situation on everybody because there's a lot of portions that you can blame everybody on, the majority of the blame has to be stemmed on CM Punk because let's be honest with ourselves. If CM Punk did the same shit in WWE, they wouldn't give a fuck. They would have canned his ass already. That's all I got to say about that. But it's a very, very, very bad situation that's going on. And I think it's not going to be ending anytime soon. And it's going to be continuing to escalate. And a lot of crazier shit is going to be going on. So that is my thoughts on CM Punk. All right. Let's go with other news. Let's talk about WrestleMania 39. John Cena versus Austin Theory is official for WrestleMania. And it's going to be, of course, for the United States Championship. Of course, WrestleMania 39 is this weekend, nights 1 and night 2. And the funny thing, well, I don't want to say the funny thing, but the most important thing to take away from John Cena versus Austin Theory, and it's a match that I'm very, very, very excited about, is Cena versus Theory will open the first night of WrestleMania. Wow. If there's one match that you could open up WrestleMania, it's definitely this match. John Cena versus Austin Theory will kick off WrestleMania. During SmackDown on Friday, and by the way, I'm once again reading this from F4W Online. During SmackDown on Friday, it was announced that Cena's match will kick off the first night of WrestleMania on Saturday, April 1st. Cena will face Austin Theory in a match that will be for the United States title. Earlier this month, Theory challenged Cena to a match at WrestleMania. Cena initially rejected the challenge, saying that Theory, quote-unquote, wasn't ready. Theory then accused Cena of giving up on his fans, a playoff of his catchphrase, quote-unquote, never give up. Cena says that he was doing Theory a favor as Theory would lose everything if he lost, but after a poll with fans, he agreed to do the match. Logan Paul has previously said that his match against Seth Rollins will also take place on the first night of WrestleMania. However, WWE has yet to confirm this. I think the idea of Austin Theory versus John Cena, kicking off the show, I think this is definitely a great idea. If anybody is telling you this, if anybody is telling you that the WrestleMania card is lackluster, I don't know what to tell you. These people are blind. I will say this, though. For some matches, the build hasn't been great. For example, Asuka versus Bianca Belair. The build has been dog shit for that match. Same thing as if you can say Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. The build hasn't been not so great as well. But with Austin Theory versus John Cena, it is an integral match, and I'm actually very excited for this match. Of course, Cena is not going to win. Theory is 100% going to be retaining. I think it's pretty obvious. But it's definitely a great match to really get that WrestleMania feeling going, and I'm 100% excited for this match to kick off WrestleMania. All right. Rey Mysterio versus Dominik Mysterio is official for WrestleMania 39 as well. The match has been finally confirmed this past Friday on SmackDown, which I actually didn't watch. I did not watch the show, but I did watch the segment that transpired between Rey and Dominik Mysterio. I'm once again reading this from F4W Online. Rey Mysterio versus Dominik Mysterio is official for WrestleMania 39. A father and son match is on for WrestleMania. After months of refusing to fight his son, Rey Mysterio finally agreed to face Dominik in a match at WrestleMania following an angle on Friday's SmackDown. Dominik was ringside for Rey versus LA Knight on SmackDown, tripping Rey and allowing Knight to score an upset victory. After the match, Dominik berated his mother Angie, who was sitting ringside along with Aaliyah Mysterio. The tipping point for Rey came when Dominik called his mother a quote-unquote deadbeat and told her, no, he didn't tell her. He screamed at her to shut up. Rey then struck Dominik and agreed to face him at WrestleMania. Rey will also be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame on Friday, March 31st, the day before Night 1 of WrestleMania. He has announced the announced WrestleMania card so far. So we got Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair versus Asuka, Theory versus John Cena, Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus versus Gunther, the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, Edge and Finn Balor, Hell in a Cell, Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul, Rey versus Dominik, Trish Stratus, Becky Lynch, and Lita versus Damage Control. And we got the women's four-way tag team showcase match and the men's four-way tag team showcase match. So that is the listed card so far for WrestleMania, and I believe that's basically the majority of the whole card. But what were my thoughts on what transpired on Friday? As I've stated earlier, I did not watch SmackDown, but I did watch this whole thing transpire on YouTube. I watched it back, and overall, I thought what they did was fantastic. I loved the involvement of Angie, and the pop when Rey Mysterio finally hitting his own son was amazing to see as well. I talked about this previously on SmackDown reviews, but, and this is the case with Raw as well. Raw is not really that good of a show, but one of the things that I've been really interested in was this whole feud with Rey and Dominik. And I thought the build to this match has been tremendous. If there is any other match besides the Bloodline story and Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Cody Rhodes that was, I don't want to say better or even on par, because the whole Bloodline story, I feel like nobody can fucking top that. That shit was pure perfection in my opinion. I felt like this was definitely close to that. I thought the build for Rey versus Dominik has been fantastic these past couple of weeks, and it really had me emotionally invested. Kind of like I did with Sami Zayn and the whole whacking of Sami Zayn and the Bloodline. All of that good shit that we saw these past couple of months. But this match in particular, I'm going to be very excited about. Not only that, it's going to be a match that, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm going to be very emotional watching this match because of the fact that, I don't know, man. Again, the story writes itself, and I thought the story with Dominik and Judgment Day has been paying off for Dominik so far. And I think this whole thing with Rey Mysterio and Dominik, it's just fantastic television that they have been telling. Fantastic storytelling that they have been telling for the past couple of weeks. And again, it has the fans emotionally invested. So I'm very excited for Rey versus Dominik Mysterio to happen at WrestleMania. All right. We got another bit of quick news. We got Vince McMahon reimbursing WWE $17.4 million for the hush money investigation. A security filing revealed that he paid $17.5 million on March 23rd. Once again, I'm reading this from F4W Online. Vince McMahon has reimbursed costs in relation to the investigation into the hush money payments while he was CEO of the company. According to a securities filing Friday afternoon, McMahon made $17.5 million, $1 million payment to WWE on March 23rd. In addition, McMahon agreed to reimburse the company for additional costs related to the investigation subsequent to January 31st. McMahon announced his retirement in July of 2022 after the Wall Street Journal reported that the WWE Board of Directors was investigating McMahon for using company funds for hush money payments in regards to sexual assault allegations. In January of this year, McMahon used his power as majority shareholder of WWE to insert himself back into the board of directors, reshaping the board that ultimately voted him back into the position as chairman of the company. In a press release, McMahon said that he was making the moves with the intention of facilitating a sale of WWE. Despite Mr. McMahon's moves, Nick Khan remains the CEO of WWE and Triple H remains the head of creative content. But Stephanie McMahon, who was the co-CEO with Nick Khan, stepped down shortly after her father came back into power. So Vince McMahon is basically paying back he's paying back WWE for all the hush money payments. I'm not surprised. Again, Vince McMahon, whenever he fixes the situation, he just uses his money as his own tool. This comes to no shock. Of course, this was definitely expected. Now, the biggest thing that we really need to take away from this is, and this is basically the biggest thing to take away with any Vince McMahon story that's coming out, is when the sale eventually happens, which most likely I genuinely believe it will. At this point, I believe they're going to be they're going to look for bidders. I believe next month, if that's correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. It all depends on the sale of the company. If Vince McMahon is in charge after the company is bought out, that's going to be a major problem, in my opinion, for WWE. Again, we will find out if Vince McMahon is legitimately in charge when the sale transpires. And there's not really a lot of buyers at this point for WWE. I believe Comcast is out of the running. Endeavor basically confirmed that, like, hey, I don't think we're going to be buying the company. I don't know, man. And Vince McMahon is asking for how much? What was it? $9 billion for WWE, which I think is fucking ridiculous. Completely asinine, in my opinion. Asking for $9 billion for WWE. I don't think WWE is worth $9 billion. If anything, I genuinely believe WWE is worth roughly at least 4 to 5, maybe a stretch $6 billion. But $9 billion? Fuck that. I think that's a little bit too much. But I don't know, man. Vince McMahon, he's back in the board. There's been reports of him back in the gorilla position on Raw. Granted, he wasn't really doing anything. A lot of the dirt sheets were saying that, oh, yeah, he's only there to visit John Cena, which I think is complete bullshit. I genuinely believe that Brock Lesnar versus Omos is definitely a Mr. McMahon match. But crazier things have happened, just like I stated with the whole CM Punk bullshit that I was talking about earlier on this episode. Crazier things have happened, but a lot of things are also going to be happening in the future. And again, it all depends on the sale of the company, whether or not Vince McMahon is actually going to be in charge or not. And most likely, in my opinion, Vince is going to be in charge after the sale transpires. So I really wanted to throw that out there. We got an update on the planned third AEW weekly television series. So as you guys all know, I talked about this. This is basically the main topic from the last episode of the WrestleHavoc podcast. AEW, apparently Warner Brothers Discovery wants to give them a third hour of television, or I should say a fourth hour technically of television, because Dynamite is 2 hours, Rampage is an hour, this new show is going to be an hour, and it's rumored to be on Saturday nights at 6:05. So we got an update on the planned third hour. Once again, I'm reading this from the people of the Wrestling Observer on F4W Online. A third weekly AEW television series could potentially be making its debut this summer. Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast reported earlier this month that AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery were finalizing a deal to add a third weekly in-ring AEW television show to that schedule. A series would feature hour-long episodes, with Zarian hinting that it would air on Saturday nights. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer provided an update on the potential series, and he stated, Meltzer wrote that the show is planned, and unless something major changes, it will be premiering by July, if not earlier. And he stated, and I quote, "The July 14th show in Regina, Saskatchewan originally was a Rampage taping, has been moved to July 8th, where it is billed as a television taping but not a Rampage taping. Tony Khan didn't comment on the change, which on the surface could be the idea of the new Saturday show that has been rumored about. The schedule in June hasn't been announced yet other than the Canadian shows, so we don't know if this is going to be the first Saturday taping or the Saturday show will begin before this date. But the Saturday show right now is planned, and unless something major changes, it will be debuting at least by July, if not earlier. Things have been kept quiet, but close enough to a done deal that the Regina news basically confirms it, and the fact that the change was made this week also confirms that the close to finalization would have just recently come up. If it's on TNT, and there would be a lot of sports preemptions throughout the year. On TBS, some as well. Still, more programming is a good sign, provided that there is a commensurate, literally, Dave Meltzer when he speaks, Jesus Christ, increase in rights fees for the new stuff. The new series would join Dynamite and Rampage, AEW's weekly television lineup. Other AEW series, the company's all-access reality show, is set to premiere this coming Wednesday, and the reality show will have a 6-episode run. So, the rumored show will most likely be debuting in July, which definitely is a weird time, considering the fact that when new shows debut, especially when it comes to wrestling shows, if like the show is moving to a new network, usually it ends up going into the fall. But correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Rampage, when it debuted in August. But you guys know my thoughts on this new show. If you guys haven't, I'll reiterate. There's pros and cons to having this new show. And the biggest pro that we can take away from this new show is the fact that Warner Brothers Discovery is behind AEW 110%. That is the biggest takeaway that we can take away from this whole situation. Now, the con, I wouldn't necessarily call this a con, but instead of a con, I would rather call it more questions. I have a lot of questions for this show, and I talked about this on the previous episode. Is this show going to be treated as equal as Dynamite? Because let's be honest with ourselves. Rampage is not Dynamite. If you want to watch AEW, you can literally just watch Dynamite. Rampage, in my opinion, is a skippable show, in my opinion. There's nothing really major that happens on Rampage. And I genuinely feel that if you really, a lot of people, and people really need to understand this, especially the core AEW fan base, when it comes to your average wrestling viewer, now everybody's different, but the majority of people want to see the main wrestlers. They want to see the main superstars, and they watch Dynamite for that. This show has to not only be treated as important, but this show, and I urge, if Tony Khan is listening, I guarantee you he's not, but this show needs to not only be different, but visually it needs to be different. The show needs to have a different feel, but at the same time, it needs to have the same level of importance that that Dynamite has, in my opinion. It needs to have that same level of importance, and that's what Rampage does not have. So I feel like if they're going forward with this new show, they really need to go full-fledged on making this show as important so they can have people watch the show. Not only that, another question that I have is this show going to be taped or live? I hope to God that this show is not taped every week. Another question that I have is, what are they going to be doing with the weekly schedules for the talent? Are they going to be taping Rampage now after Dynamite? Are they going to be taping the show after Dynamite? We do not know. I think they're going to have some schedule changes after that. That's just my belief, but I may be totally wrong. But again, man, it's very interesting stuff. And not only that, if this show is which I believe is most likely going to be happening, they're going to have to do some schedule changes. And hopefully, I pray to the gods that this show is a live show every week. Because if this show is live, it gives me a reason to actually watch instead of looking for spoilers on the internet or on social media. But that is the update on the new AEW show. A WWE Raw segment was reshot due to the usage of the word wrestling. Oh my God. Is this a sign of Vince McMahon returning to power? I have absolutely no idea. Once again, I'm reading this from the people at the Wrestling Observer. F4W Online. Previously banned terms that had been reinstated after Triple H took over WWE Creative might be prohibited once again. A pre-taped segment for Raw on Monday had to be reshot after a performer used the word quote-unquote wrestling. Under Vince McMahon, the term had been banned from the use on WWE programming in favor of sports entertainment and sports entertainer. The epitome of sports entertainers. I'm kidding. It's not clear what the pre-taped segment had to be reshot. Dave Meltzer addressed the situation in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, noting that it's the latest evidence of Vince McMahon's influence on the product. Meltzer wrote, and I quote, "If you haven't seen the fingerprints of Vince McMahon on camera, and there are little things here and there was a pre-taped interview on the March 20th episode of Raw where somebody used the term wrestling, and they had to redo. Granted, Reigns and Rhodes used the term pro wrestlers in their promo on the same show." In September of 2021, Meltzer addressed the list of terms that were prohibited in WWE. He states all these words in basically one sentence, and I quote, blood, choke, belt, strap, diva, headshot, trauma, kayfabe, mofos, house show, DQ, the anti-diva, spinal injuries, victim, violent wrestling, all these different fucking words, right? In last August, shortly after Levesque was named WWE Chief Content Officer, the terms wrestler and wrestling were also said to be no longer considered dirty words. Vince McMahon returned to WWE as the company's executive chairman on January 6, 2023. His official role is to help prepare the company for a quote-unquote potential sale. Yeah, right. But some believe he has been influencing the creative direction as well. So this story is very weird to me, considering the fact that if you guys watched Raw this past Monday, Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes did use the term wrestling and wrestler constantly, so it's very hard to believe this story, but if this story is true and a wrestler had to redo a promo because of the fact that they used the term wrestling, that is definitely a major sign that Vince McMahon is in power. But again, I urge a lot of people, once the sale happens, which it most likely will, if the sale transpires and the company is fully sold, you will then know who is going to be fully in charge, either Vince McMahon or Triple H, and it's very easy to point out that answer. I think it's pretty obvious you know who is going to be in charge, but I may be wrong. But again, it's very interesting because if you think about it, when Triple H was when he first rose to power last summer, you definitely noticed a lot of changes in WWE programming. You know, Michael Cole on commentary wouldn't refer to the fans as he wouldn't refer to the fans as the WWE Universe anymore. Most of the time, he would call, the fans, WWE fans. He wouldn't call them the WWE Universe. Other instances, they would mention things that wouldn't really be mentioned on WWE programming. For example, when Don West unfortunately passed away, God rest his soul, Michael Cole mentioned Don West on commentary. When Jay Briscoe unfortunately passed away, Jay Briscoe was never in the WWE, and Michael Cole mentioned him on commentary as well. Stuff like that, the small things, one of the biggest benefits of Triple H running things in the creative direction in WWE was he was trying to basically break WWE away from the WWE bubble that Vince McMahon tried to keep contaminated. He basically wanted to keep everything contaminated in his own little WWE bubble. Triple H, on the other hand, had a different vision and says, hey, we can literally expand this bubble to the entire wrestling industry, and that is exactly what Triple H has been doing these past couple of months. But with this story coming out, even though it's very difficult to believe considering the fact that Roman Reigns basically flat out called Cody Rhodes a pro wrestler, I mean, I don't know, man. And this is coming around the same time where reports are coming out that Vince McMahon is in Gorilla. It's pretty obvious to know, who is running things in some aspects of the show. For example, Brock Lesnar versus Omos. Do you honestly believe Triple H would have booked that match? Because I know I don't. I genuinely believe Vince McMahon definitely booked that match. And Triple H even stated in press conferences after pay-per-views, he would state, there'd be some input of Vince McMahon there and there. So clearly Vince McMahon has some say in some things. Does he have say in everything? No, he doesn't, but he has say in some sort of things that are taking place on the show, especially for WrestleMania, because WrestleMania is literally Vince McMahon's creation, and he still wants to play a part in WrestleMania, whether that is a good thing or a bad thing in your eyes. I genuinely believe that Vince McMahon shouldn't be anywhere near the creative direction in WWE. I think, his time has passed years ago, and I think Vince McMahon is completely out of touch with everything going on in the product. And if Vince McMahon, when the sale transpires, because we all know it will, if Vince McMahon is going to be running things in creative when the sale transpires, it's going to be a major problem for WWE. But as of right now, Triple H is running the majority of the things in WWE. There's just some aspects in WWE television that Vince McMahon is a part of. But that's all I got to say about that. AEW is considering moving venues for All Out. The annual pay-per-view may take place at the United Center instead. Whoop-de-fucking-do. So once again, I'm reading this from F4W Online. AEW is reportedly considering holding September's All Out at Chicago's United Center instead of the traditional Now Arena, formerly the Sears Center. Fightful first reported the news Thursday. Outside the 2020 location held in Jacksonville, Florida, of course, during the pandemic, the annual Labor Day weekend pay-per-view has now been held at the Now Arena, formerly the Sears Center, since its creation in 2019, as well as its predecessor, or its precursor, All In, back in 2018. In this scenario, the report stated that the go-home editions of both Dynamite and Rampage would remain at the Now Arena. It's assumed the driving force for the potential move is the size of the venue, as the United Center, home of the Chicago Bulls and NHL's Blackhawks, can house considerably more fans. AEW has run United Center previously and drawn strong attendance, notably for CM Punk's return to wrestling in August of 2021 that drew over 15,000 fans based off a rumor. And, you know, for a lot of the doubters when CM Punk first came in, everybody was saying he's not going to make a difference. Literally, this motherfucker sold out United Center based on the rumor that he was only going to show up. He wasn't even officially announced. They then returned last June for the first ever Forbidden Door, which drew nearly 16,000 fans, which they immediately sold out as well. For the 3 all-out pay-per-views held at the Now Arena, attendance has been just over 10,000 each time. What are my thoughts on this? I think this is a positive note. I remember last year I was very upset that AEW ran 2 pay-per-views back-to-back in Chicago. Even though I know AEW loves Chicago so much, but Jesus Christ, they get fucking everything. I think AEW moving to the United Center, if you want to keep All Out in Chicago, I totally understand that, because pay-per-views like All Out and Double or Nothing are going, in my opinion, going to be staying in the same type of venues. You know, AEW All Out moving to the United Center is definitely the step in the right direction, because if you really think about it, if they held All Out at Now Arena this year alone, it would definitely sell out, but at the same time, if you think about it, you're leaving a lot of money out the table. So it makes total sense for AEW to move All Out from the Now Arena to Chicago. But, you know, if they are moving to the United Center, you know, maybe for the next couple of years, I would love for AEW to explore other options for All Out. Maybe you can move All out of Chicago and, you know, maybe go to maybe states like where I'm at, New Jersey. Now, they did hold Full Gear here in New Jersey, so I really shouldn't be saying anything about New Jersey. But again, man, explore different options with All Out. You know, Double or Nothing is strictly, in my opinion, going to be a Vegas show. But I think All Out definitely has the potential of going to different markets. And AEW definitely has the willpower and capacity to go to these different markets and immediately sell out. Case in point, Forbidden Door 2. That show is damn near sold out. It didn't sell out officially, but it damn near sold out, and it's close to a sellout because there's a strong demand for wrestling in the Canadian market. But yeah, I think All Out moving to the United Center is definitely a great idea, in my opinion. I think, you know, having Dynamite and Rampage at the Now Arena is the perfect decision. And, you know, with All Out moving to the United Center, it's definitely, you know, you're not leaving money at the table if you go to the United Center. Because if you go to the Now Arena, you're definitely leaving a lot of money out of the table. FTR will leave AEW if they can't defeat the Guns for the tag team titles. I'm reading this from F4W Online. FTR threw down a proclamation during Wednesday's AEW Dynamite that if they can't defeat the Guns for the tag team titles, they will leave AEW. Following the Guns' successful title defenses against Top Flight, thanks to interference from the Kingdom, that being Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Maria Kanellis, FTR came out to deliver the message personally. Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler said that they were here to talk business, but Austin and Colton Gunn said that there were nothing that they could do to earn a shot at them, even if it meant no more title shots with a loss. Wheeler then offered that they would split up in AEW if they lost, and Austin still refused. And Harwood then upped the ante with their departure if the Guns defeated them, and it was accepted, followed by the champions spitting in FTR's faces. The date wasn't officially announced or intimated when the match will take place. FTR lost the AEW tag titles to the Acclaimed last December, and No, FTR did not lose the tag titles. They didn't hold it. This report is wrong. But the two made a surprise return at Revolution. You guys know the gist. So, yeah, I read that from F4W Online, but clearly this, article did not pay attention because FTR did not have the AEW tag team titles last year. They held the IWGP, AAA, and ROH tag team titles. But what are my thoughts on FTR adding the stipulation on Dynamite? I don't know, man. Dax Harwood loves working the fans because he's a fan of pro wrestling himself. But I don't know, man. Personally, me as a fan, I would rather have FTR stay in AEW because I feel like there's a lot left in the tank for FTR to do in AEW rather than return to WWE. Now, that is not to say that WWE is not a bad option. But if you think about it, even though their the tag team scene in WWE is, has slightly gotten better ever since Triple H took over, it's really not where it needs to be, in my opinion. And I'll say the same thing about AEW. I feel like AEW's tag team division is not as strong as it was. And I feel like with FTR being a part of that AEW tag team division, I think it definitely makes that division much stronger. And I feel like there's a lot more things that FTR can do in AEW that they can't do in WWE. But what are my thoughts on the stipulation added for a future maybe Dynamite episode? It really scared me because, it could have very well be a write-off for FTR. I don't know. But again, it's something that we are really going to have to pay attention about. And honestly, I honestly do not know what the hell is going to be happening. The best thing to come out of this is the unpredictability nature. But at the same time, even though it creates an unpredictability nature, a part of me thinks that this is a little bit predictable considering the fact that, again, FTR's contracts are up next month and this match hasn't even been booked yet. But it's going to happen. I don't know, man. I genuinely believe that they will eventually win the AEW tag team titles because creatively it makes sense. But I don't know, man. Crazier things have happened. It's a common term that I use on this show, but I don't know, man. It scares me. Personally, as a fan of FTR, they're literally my favorite tag team right now. I want FTR to stay in AEW. But if they make the decision of going to WWE, even though I don't think it's the right decision, I will still support FTR. I'm not going to be like those other fucking fans that will immediately turn on somebody just because they go to a different promotion. I will still support FTR if they go to the WWE. But again, I feel like the right decision is to stay with AEW, in my opinion, because there's a lot left for them to do. And I feel like a second run with the AEW Tag Team Championships is definitely the right way to go. All right. We then got Forbidden Door 2. Yes, Forbidden Door 2. After that, we will be talking briefly about El Hijo del Vikingo and ROH Supercard of Honor. But AEW announces Forbidden Door 2 as part of a summer Canadian tour. This is a big story. They will visit several new markets. Once again, I'm reading this from F4W Online. Ahead of their debut Wednesday in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, AEW announced a Canadian tour for this summer, which will include the return of their Forbidden Door pay-per-view with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Their second ever cross-promoted pay-per-view will take place at the Toronto's Scotiabank Centre on Saturday, June 25th, a date that had been identified some time ago thanks to a cable provider's listed upcoming schedule. This will be AEW's second appearance in the city after they ran Toronto's Coca-Cola Coliseum for both Dynamite and Rampage last October. The event will be a part of a 6-show Canadian tour that will see the company explore new markets in the Great White North with live Dynamites, a live Rampage, and a house show. Now, these are the listed dates for these shows that will be taking place in the Canadian market. Wednesday, June 28th, Dynamite and Rampage at the First Ontario Centre in Hamilton, Ontario. Wednesday, July 5th, Dynamite Rampage at Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta. Wednesday, July 12th, Dynamite at the Saskatoon Centre in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Friday, July 14th, Rampage at the Branded Centre in Regina, Saskatchewan. And on Saturday, July 15th, AEW House Rules at the Saddle Dome as part of the Calgary Stampede in Calgary, Alberta. Now, that house show that will be taking place July 15th is going to be very interesting, considering the fact that the Saddle Dome is literally a 20,000-seat arena. This is for a house show. Holy shit, that is crazy. While the Calgary show goes on sale this Friday, all the other shows will go on sale Friday, March 24th. Now, speaking of Forbidden Door, tickets have been flying for that show. I'm going to pull up WrestleTix right now, and the show is damn near a sellout. Literally. The show is literally super close to a sellout, and you love to see it at the end of the day, because Forbidden Door is one of those, I don't want to say once in a lifetime shows. I feel like I'm reiterating Rock versus Cena. But last year's Forbidden Door was hammered with injuries. And even if the show was hammered with lots of injuries, the show still relatively did fantastically well in buy rates. But not only that, creatively, I thought the show was fantastic and probably one of the best pay-per-views of the year. So the fact that they almost sold out Forbidden Door is great to see. I believe there's 103 tickets left in total, I believe. Currently, right now, I may be wrong. But tickets have been flying fast. And this is actually coming at a time where these past few months, especially last fall, that AEW wasn't really doing so well in ticket sales. And if you look at Revolution did not sell out as well. So the fact that Forbidden Door is close to a sellout, it's a great sign that AEW's business is doing tremendously well. And hopefully the build for this show is definitely much better than last year's build. And, granted, last year's build, they were hammered with injuries and it was out of their control. But hopefully this year's build for the show is much better than last year's. And I hope this year's Forbidden Door is going to be just as good as last year's, because last year's Forbidden Door, in my opinion, was considered one of the best pay-per-views, especially in my opinion, one of the best pay-per-views of the whole year. So Forbidden Door is damn near close to selling out. You absolutely love to see it. All right. We're going to be discussing very quickly. We're going to be giving you guys a rundown of the card for Supercard of Honor. Supercard of Honor is going to be taking place Friday, March 23rd, and I'm going to be reviewing that show right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. But the only issue that I have right now is, how am I going to schedule that, since there's a lot of shit going on this weekend, because it's WrestleMania weekend. We're going to be running down the card real quick. Of course, we got the main event. We got Claudio Castagnoli taking on Eddie Kingston for the Ring of Honor World Championship. That is a match that I'm absolutely freaking stoked for. We got Yuka Sakazaki versus Athena for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship, which I don't think has been announced yet, but I haven't been watching the last 2 weeks of Ring of Honor, so I have to really go up to date. We also got El Hijo del Vikingo, which I'll be talking about on this show as well, taking on Commander. Now, that match is actually very interesting, considering the fact that I believe GCW later in that month, or I should say later in April, has a match booked between the two guys as well. And if you really think about it, Tony Khan kind of stole their thunder, which is hilarious to see. I like GCW, but that's just pretty funny. I want to note that. But that match, holy shit, I'm excited about. We also got the Reach for the Sky ladder match. We got tag teams like Aussie Open, The Kingdom. The Lucha Bros are going to be involved in that match. A lot of tag teams are going to be involved in that match. That's going to be a freaking banger as well. We got Wheeler Yuta defending the Ring of Honor Pure Championship against Kazuori Shibata. Now, I don't think the match has been officially announced yet, but due to the tapings and the spoilers that I saw, it looks like that match is going to be happening this Friday at Supercard of Honor as well. We also got Mark Briscoe, one half of one of the best tag teams in Ring of Honor history, the Briscoe brothers, will be wrestling Samoa Joe for the World Television title as well. So if you really think about it, Supercard of Honor is looking like a stacked card in my opinion. I'm absolutely very excited for this show, and I feel like it's going to be one of the best shows of the year. A lot of people are not really that big of a fans of Ring of Honor, but if you guys definitely have the chance, definitely spend those $40 for Ring of Honor. I guarantee you, the previous Ring of Honor pay-per-views like Death Before Dishonor, Final Battle, and I'll go as far as to say last year's Supercard of Honor did not disappoint whatsoever. So I'm definitely going to be watching this show, and I'm definitely going to be interested in a lot of the matches, man. I've seen a lot of memes on social media about Tony Khan, AEW Tony Khan versus Ring of Honor Tony Khan competing for, promoter of the year. That's basically the case, man. And this show is not going to disappoint. Be on the lookout right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast for Supercard of Honor. It's going to be a great show. In our final topic, I'm going to be talking about El Hijo del Vikingo. Of course, he made his AEW debut. Now, he's not signed to the company. He's the current AAA Mega Champion. And this match was actually originally supposed to happen 2 years ago, but due to Kenny's injuries, this match ended up not happening. I wanted to save this as the last topic because this match was fan-fucking-tastic. Now, this is the second ever match that I've ever seen from El Hijo del Vikingo. And I remember when this match was first announced, Jesus Christ, the outrage was fucking ridiculous. Completely fucking ridiculous. You had people say, where's the story, blah, blah, blah. We don't know who he is, even though they aired a video package on Rampage. Granted, not a lot of people watch Rampage. Also, they aired a video package earlier on the night on Dynamite. So really, all these fans were fucking complaining. But I always stated to these people, man, if you do not know who El Hijo del Vikingo is, that is okay because you will know who he is after you watch that match. And that match that he had with Kenny fucking Omega was absolutely fucking insane. The spots that this guy is... Again, this is the second time that I watched this dude. The first time I watched this guy was at GCW a couple of weeks prior at the Showboat against Alex Zane. This guy is out of this fucking world. This guy would literally jump over the top rope using, of course, support from the middle rope, doing a fucking 630 senton on Kenny Omega on the table. All like these poison Rana spots left and right. Jesus Christ, this guy is out of this fucking world, man. El Hijo del Vikingo is literally the best luchador in the world today. This guy was amazing. You want to know how good this match was? I actually watched this match with my mom and dad, and they don't even watch wrestling at all. And they told me flat out that this was amazing. They loved this match, and they told me this wrestler Vikingo, they don't even watch wrestling at all. And they thought, oh my God, this guy is absolutely amazing, out of this world. What makes El Hijo del Vikingo so special is the fact that he does things that other luchadors don't really do. And I'm not really the biggest follower of AAA or CMLL and all that stuff, but from the luchadors that I've been seeing on AEW TV, WWE TV, they're freaking fantastic. For example, Rey Fenix is one of the best out there. But Jesus Christ, El Hijo del Vikingo is literally a different fucking breed. This man is out of this goddamn world. And I'm immediately a fan of his. And this is only the second ever match that I saw El Hijo del Vikingo wrestle. The first time I saw him wrestle live, and I was completely shocked. But in this match that he had with Kenny Omega, good God, fucking amazing. I absolutely loved it. I just wanted to throw that out there because I really wanted to give my thoughts on this match. And another thing that I want to keep note of El Hijo del Vikingo and all the doubters on social media, because they're freaking idiots on the internet, is all of those haters that were complaining when this match was first announced are now 100% silent. Keep in mind, these are the same people that marked out when Dragon Lee was signed to WWE and headed straight to NXT, even though they didn't know who the fuck he was. Very hypocritical on that side, but overall, man, El Hijo del Vikingo, fantastic wrestler, fantastic luchador, definitely one of the best in-ring performers today. But yeah, that was all I got for episode 11 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed everything that I talked about right here on the show. We definitely talked a lot. We're right now literally an hour and 14 minutes into this whole thing. But yeah, this week is going to be a big week, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I do not know what the schedule is going to be for this weekend, but hopefully when I do the Raw review, I will definitely give you guys a schedule for all of the reviews that I'm going to be, all the shows basically that I'm going to be covering during WrestleMania weekend, because we're going to be busy come WrestleMania weekend. So we're going to be doing a lot of things, but overall, we definitely talked a lot of topics here on the show. Be on the lookout for the reviews. Hopefully, I'll come back with the Raw review this week, same as Dynamite and SmackDown. Ring of Honor as well. I got to keep in touch with Ring of Honor. I haven't watched the last 2 episodes, so that's my apologies as well. The Ring of Honor reviews will still be on the channel. It's just I haven't watched the last 2 episodes. I've been very behind with a lot of stuff in the realm of pro wrestling, but hopefully I can get up to date this week and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. So, yeah, that was episode 11. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast, right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And, as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Rick signing out. See you guys later.